Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Chorus Corning, so welcome to Closet Movie Rambles, where I talk about old movies that I found in my closet while cleaning. This week's movie is 30 Days of Night, and it's about 1 hour and 48 minutes long. And the movie starts with explaining about Alaska and a town called Barrow, which is, at the end of every year, there's a month of total darkness, and that's not a good thing. So, cutting to a man walking through the snow from an abandoned ship, and he will become important later on in the story. Then cutting to two police officers, Eben and Billy, and they're looking at a pile of burnt cell phones. So obviously things are going on. And also during this time of the year, most of the people in the town actually leave it because 30 days of night is not a good thing. There's like this thing with prohibition, they can't drink or anything like that because the darkness or the cold is bad enough. So Eben finds out that someone has been killing off the sled dogs, so they basically get stranded in this place right about now. And then this other girl, which is, I think she's a love interest of Eben, called Stella. She wants to leave Barrow, and basically she gets hit by this other guy in like a plowing machine or whatever, and she's forced to call Eben up. She doesn't really want to, but she calls him up, and he sends Billy along to drive to the airport. But when she gets there, the airport is about to shut down, and she's actually stranded there now. And then cutting to the annoying guy, or the guy that walked in the snow at the beginning of the movie. He's actually in a diner, and he wants to eat raw meat for some reason, and he wants alcohol, but there's this prohibition thing that I talked about. And he's ready to cause a mess in town, but Stella and Eben actually takes him down and they put him back into jail. And meanwhile this is happening, there's this mob that's been killing off a couple of guys. This story is kind of weird, but it turns out that it's actually a vampire. It's not that big of a deal. It's actually on the cover of the movie and posters and everything. So what happened is that the power goes out and the computer is shut down as well. So Evan goes outside to investigate something, and he finds the radio guy Gus's head on a pike, and that's the big alarm clock. Now something is really happening, so he goes to tell the townspeople to stay in their homes and don't go outside. And he goes back to the station to check things out, and the prisoner from the diner there is making a commotion, and it ends up with him actually getting shot and tied to the jail bars in his cell. And then Evan and Stella goes outside, and they're attacked by vampires, but they're saved by this guy in a plow. At the beginning of the movie, he actually gave the guy like a ticket for some reason, and this was the last day of the season. He got a ticket for, leaking oil from his truck or whatever. So they go back to the station, and there are no survivors there except for the prisoners. So obviously something is going on. So Stella and Evan, they basically go down to the diner and they find the other survivors. And they go to a place called the Attic, which is this place where Evan and Stella used to play as kids or something. And it's like basically a safe place because no one knows about it. And they spend some time there, and during the night time, I think this like the 7th day or something, there's this girl outside that the vampire used to call out people so they can kill even more and drink their blood or whatever. But they realize that it's like a trap thing. And during the night, and this is one of the weird things, they have this old senile man with them on the attic, and he just decides that he wants to leave. So he leaves and goes outside, and his son actually follows him outside. And they basically disappear. And then a heavy snowstorm draws in, and they use the cover of this storm to go down to the shop to get some supplies. But while they're there, they encounter a vampire girl, a little kid, and Eben is supposed to take her out, but there's some commotion again, and his younger brother is forced to do it, and it causes him some stress. And during this time, they get the brilliant idea of using UV lights against the vampires because reasons. They guess it's like in the folklore and everything. So this ends up with one of the survivors actually sacrificing himself, and there being a big explosion. And also during this time, Stella saves like a kid, and Eben is forced to kill up one of the other survivors because he was bitten by the vampire girl, and he's about to turn, and he doesn't want to turn, obviously. So the main survivors go to this, I think it's like a power plant, because now they have like power back. And of course, they found Billy, and Billy actually leads the vampires into the power plant, and they're forced to kill him off, pushing him into a meat grinder, which is super cruel. And they also managed to dispatch another vampire in the process as well, like one of the originals. But the vampires have kind of planned this ahead, so they destroy the pipeline that goes through Barrow, and they basically set fire to whole of the town. So Eben gets the brilliant idea of saving Stella by, and the kid of course, by injecting himself with the vampire blood, because that's a really good idea. So he goes out to fight these vampires, and he actually managed to kill the leader, but then as the sun is supposed to rise, he goes to like watch the last sunset with Stella, and he actually passes. He turns to like ash, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. So what do I think about this movie? There's a really cool thing that the vampires does when they attack. They do this inhale kind of scream thing instead of outhale, like just draw in the air. It's really cool. Another thing that I really don't like, this movie has a lot of unnecessary jump scares just for the sake of it. And always with these kind of cheesy like B movies, there's always this thing where the characters always make the wrong decisions. And I don't know if it's just this thing with B movies or whatever, but yeah, let's go outside. What can go wrong? There's like a million vampires out there. I mean, and they're hunting us. I don't know. It's probably a good idea. It never ends up well. I mean, it's kind of the movie is actually kind of good in itself. It has good pacing and whatnot. And the guy that actually arrives from the ship and guides the vampires to the town of Barry, he's actually kind of creepier than the vampires himself, because he's like so foul and his teeth is all like black and stuff, and not a nice guy at all. But I don't think I really can recommend this movie to anyone. It's like this, I don't know, there's something about it. It's like weird, I guess. But anyway, thanks for listening and watching, and take care.